Okay, hello, welcome everybody. Um, okay, so welcome to today's live stream. We'll be talking about supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. Today's Power Hour is sponsored by the Indian Collective. So thank you guys for your support. Today is day 1 of week 12. So 12 weeks, every single day we have a Power Hour. It's NWI's way of contributing and giving back to our response to the pandemic. So 12 weeks in, today is our 78th Power Hour, which is so many. You can find them all on our Facebook page, as well as we put them on our YouTube page. So if you want to scroll back, there's 78 videos there in a range of topics. And so our team here today, we're a part of R20SP and just really excited to be able to have this conversation and dialogue with everyone. So I'm gonna pass it over to Josh so that he can kick us off.
Awesome. So grateful that everyone's here and that you'll be joining us for the conversation. Before we get going, there's a lot going on in our worlds, in the world, and so to make sure we take care of the space, we're just gonna say a quick prayer. I just want to say, Creator, grateful for this beautiful day that we've been gifted. Grateful for the opportunity to share the space with one another and to be able to reach across the space that is the land and the world, to be able to connect with one another through this technology. Pray for all those who are using their voices this day and expressing their thoughts, their feelings, their pains, their hurts, um, and their hopes for healing, that they'll be heard. And we pray that as Indian people, we'll be able to join ourselves with our Black brothers and sisters to be able to make their voices heard, elevate their stories, and to ensure that justice comes for all. And we're grateful for, again, this opportunity given to us by all those who made it possible, and send up this prayer with a hopeful heart and willing hands.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, so I'll kick it off with my intro. Hello, everyone. My name is Shailene Joseph. I'm really excited to be here. On my mother's side, I'm Ani from Fort Belknap, Montana, and on my dad's side, I'm Koikon at the Baskin from Tanana, Alaska. I work for the Native Wellness Institute alongside with the Indigenous 20-somethings project, and I'm just really thankful to be here and to share space with everyone. I know it's a really interesting time, and those are kind of the things that we'll talk about. So, yeah, I'll kick it over. Josh, you want to intro?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Cocker. I'm Kyle on my mom's side from Oklahoma, and I'm talking on my dad's side from the middle of the Pacific and born in New Zealand. Right now, I'm living in Southern California, in a village that's known as Kalawashak, but the English name is now Santa Ynez, just outside of Santa Barbara. Yeah, and I work for the Native Wellness Institute as a facilitator, and as well with the Indigenous 20-somethings project with Shailene. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Randy?
Yeah, hello everyone. Uki Sanatanaku Bitawapspi, Numukdoktu, Ghana, and Seattle. Hi everyone, my name is Randy Tippins. I'm Kainai First Nation, so one of the Blackfoot bands in Canada, and I'm Black, and I grew up and live here in Seattle, Washington. And I work a little bit about me. I work for Chief Seattle Club, a native homeless shelter in downtown, the historical Pioneer District, and I've been doing that since September. And I'm a graduate of Northwest Indian College, so that's just a little bit about me.
Sib?
Yat Ash Sierra Yanasha, Tapaha Nishla, Sanjakina Bashashin, Pilagana Shache, Sinajani Chanela, Asehotso Danasha, Shma A. Lynette Adams, Wuya, Shaja A. Brandon Bigay, Wuya. And this is my baby girl, Hasaya, and this is my partner, Tomas. Hello, everybody. My name is Sierra Bigay. I am Navajo, originally from Fort Defiance, Arizona, and I reside in Phoenix, Arizona. And right now I've just been taking care of my daughter. being at home, and that is who I am.
Keshe Cuiraba. My name is Tomas Carmelo Amaya. I'm Yoeme and Ashby on my mom's side, and Raramuri on my dad's side. We're currently in Phoenix, Arizona, as Sierra just said, and this is Autumn territory. I am a co-owner of a production company with Sierra, and I am the creative director for Indian Country Today currently, and I'm just happy to be here on this conversation just to really talk about something that is, near and dear to our hearts, and to just stand up and create space. So thank you.
So one thing that I really appreciate about our group is that whenever we do a power hour, it's like the same feel we kind of have like when we all visit together anyways, like, hopping into basically you're just joining our FaceTime sessions. So I'm really excited to kind of have dialogue with everybody in here, but also, if you have a question or a comment, please let us know. So right now, it's unprecedented times, right? We are in the middle of a pandemic, which none of us have been in before. And where, there's basically a revolution happening and there's protests happening in all of the cities that we're in. I'm in Portland. I didn't mention that. And so kind of what I wanted to do, and what we normally do anyways, is just kind of check in with one another. How are you doing? How are you feeling? And, what's it been like? So I guess we can kind of do the same bit of an order, or however. Josh?
Yeah. Well, right now, my geographical position could be described as a sticks. I'm like out there. So there's in my immediate area, there's not a lot in terms of protests. There was a vigil last night held by some members and representatives set up from LA, Black Lives Matter chapter that they have down there, and that was awesome. But that's as much as we have in our immediate area. It's been pretty intense. Kind of watching from afar and listening to all these different like news stations and friends and family and stuff. But I think one of the things that's going on in our home is we're expecting a baby girl as well in on July 30th is the due date, and it's intense. One of the reasons why it's intense for us is just because we're taking that stuff in and it's coming into our home, and our baby's consuming that energy and that news too. And so I kind of swing from like maybe we should give it a break for a minute to I really want to know what's happening to some of my friends who live in these bigger cities. I got a bunch of cousins as well who are active duty military, and when I heard they were all being deployed, that was one of the first things I did was I hit all of them up like, you guys gonna be okay? Where are you heading? Are you staying home? Two are in Korea and they're staying there, and it was just interesting. It's just different. It's just different. I am glad though that those who are out there making their voices heard haven't been intimidated and continue to show up, because it's true, like systemic change has to happen in this country, and it takes it's taking a revolution right now. And yeah, so I'm curious to see what this is going to mean for all of our peoples in the future, and I really do hope that that good, healthy, healing conversation comes out of all of this, and I believe that it can. And I also believe that it's a time where more than just colored people are willing and able to have this conversation. And so, like, mad props to our Black community, brothers and sisters, and Black Lives Matter, and any other organization out there organizing protests, because they're leading the charge right now. And I'm glad that narrative is being put out there in a way that cannot be ignored and cannot be hidden in any way. So I guess that's all I have to say on that right now.
How you doing, Randy?
Oh, I've been feeling conflicted with the COVID going on and me being Black, and thinking about my safety in both settings. Like I want to make sure that I'm like as healthy as possible from any sorts of virus or and the police. And I want to go out and I want to be on the front lines every night because it's something that I'm passionate about, especially appearing black and being treated black by a lot of authorities when I walk down the street. And but my job, they're such a good place, and they've allowed me to not work normal shifts because I live with my 85-year-old grandpa, and I want to have integrity and not go out and expose myself to COVID, but it's so conflicting right now. But for the people that are out there, like just keep fighting. Like people like me that want to be out there with you every night and want to be in the front lines, right in the mix. Like you're doing it for us, and like I'm trying to support in any way possible, even if it means just watching and like chanting in my room by myself, like that. Like, please keep fighting the fight. It's important. So that's how I've been feeling. That's all I have to say about that.
Thanks for sharing. Although we have our baby, we've been thinking the same thing of like, should we have been out there, and if we weren't with our baby, would we be out there? And so a lot of the same thoughts and feelings. For me, what I've been feeling is more on the being more emotional with like the pain and feeling a lot of empathy. And so anytime that I see the news or even just watching a movie last night and seeing laughter between two Black brothers made me just want to cry due to the current situation that's happening and all of the unfolding of opinions from different parties. It's such a sad reality that we're all in and being faced with. And so I feel like for me, I've just been really heartbroken by everything and wanting to, be more vocal and feeling the pressure of like, why wasn't I more vocal before, and wanting to, share the space.
Yeah, I've definitely been feeling the heartache as well. And just really thinking about how I can be the best ally. It is a struggle for me too, like Sierra was saying about wanting to be out and display our family's appreciation of our Black brothers and sisters, and to really stand and show up. But then we've also looked at ways that we can do that in a safe way. So like Randy, it's just, it gave me the feels just to know that you're taking care of your elderly family member, and that love I think is really important. And similarly, on the other end, we have a little newborn. So I think of that. I think of how we can still show up and stand up for our communities. And I would be someone as a photographer and filmmaker. I feel like I'd want to be there, but right away I'm like, I'd rather support my Black brothers and sisters tell their own narrative. So what could I do, to be supportive in that? And so other things that I've done is just like make sure that I'm at least allowing myself to have the thought process of like where my emotions are going, but at the same time try to use that kind of emotional energy to create actual change. So I've been feeling the heartbreak, but I've been also feeling inspired by our Black brothers and sisters, and I'll save that the rest for the other part of the discussion. But
Yeah. Thank you guys. I mean, I've been on like the same kind of level. It's been like a roller coaster. Like, I'll feel really, really inspired and then see something and then just like cry. Um, and, I've been like conflicted, like, I really want to be out there to, best support the best that I can. Creator kind of put me in my place though. And, I've just been, at home healing and physically, I mean, well, emotionally too. But, just I've been thinking a lot about, watching the news every day and trying to stay informed. But also like, Sib, there was a point too that I was, feeling guilty, like, why didn't I do more before? But I think, what I've been kind of like really reflecting on myself is that there are ways now that I can be a better ally, and what are the ways in which that I can do that now. And looking internally about, do I have any biases and what are the thought processes, and because I can't change anybody, you know what I mean. I can speak my truths and do the work on myself, in hopes that it would call in people to do so as well. I think there's a lot of um, conversations that need to be had, especially in the Native community. We've heard it and we see it, and I think there's a lot of healing around. Um, well, that just needs to be had anyways in our communities. And so I've been kind of thinking like, big picture, but also looking at, what are the things that I can do. Um, I've been having like conversations with people reaching out to me, and they've been, um, pretty cool just to kind of have like realizations, with relationships that maybe we haven't had these conversations before, or people reaching out. I had like one person, and they were like, I just realized that there was very few people of color in our high school, and I don't know why I never realized that before. I was like, well, I did. Um, these these are the things that we can now have dialogue about in conversation. But it's also our time, even as people of color, our time to listen. I've been doing a lot of listening, and doing my own work to how can I best learn, right? And so I was even thinking like, before these protests came out, this work was already being done. You know what I mean? It just wasn't being seen on the level it is now. So I was like, okay, I physically cannot like do a lot. If I get bumped, it's gonna be kind of sucky. But like, so I was like, okay, the things that were already being done, how can I best support those? Um, I know myself well enough that when I start to stress, I tend to shop. So where can I really actually put my money into the Black community to give back? Um, what are the things that I could do? So I think it's I've just been kind of going back and forth every day of like just self reflection. Um, what can I do better? And knowing that I'm not perfect, and that when I come across things where I'm like, I can do better here, to try not to feel necessarily the guilt of it, but to understand why,
Mhm.
and where did I learn that, and how can I best move forward, to support. I've also never in my life signed so many petitions. Like I was usually I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll sign this. But then I was like, there was like four, and then I was like sending emails, and then I found myself, I don't like necessarily calling people I don't know, and I don't know why. But then I was just like prompted to call our representatives and change on that kind of level. So new things for me. But I'm also like just really excited to kind of see where collectively we can grow, and collectively we can learn, and kind of do this like self-evaluation. Um, cool. So I think, after moving in, I think we can kind of have some dialogue just between all of us of like, what does the Black Lives Matter movement mean to all of us, and what are our thoughts?
One of the things that's like kind of been coming up in my mind. Um, I made mention in my introduction that I was born in New Zealand. Um, for anyone who's been to New Zealand, they know that it's a very different climate there politically and socially. One of the reasons why is because the Maori people, all being different tribes, united together against the crown. They created a flag that represented the Maori people as a whole. They created a Maori party, which has political power. They're not perfect yet in terms of, or in their ideal position in terms of government Indigenous relations, but they're doing really well. And the reason why I bring that up is just because when I think about this time, when I think about the movement that's being created and pushed by a lot of organizations, and one of the key organizations being Black Lives Matter, I think about that it doesn't matter like where you come from as people of color. My personal opinion, um, as a Kiowa tribal member and growing up with the histories that we have, it's a no-brainer to stand beside them and to support them in every way that we can, because justice for one, like for one in this instance, means justice for all. I also think that it's super important that things don't get like convoluted, that things aren't taken away from. Tomas made mention of it, and Shailene made mention of it as well. Not distracting from the message. Um, yeah, and for like what that means for us in our house right now, there's four adults. My sister and her husband are here, and then my partner. We limit like our social media posting only to be in support of Black Lives Matter and other organizations that are like heading these responses in these cities. But it's just I love what they're doing. I love how organized it is. I love how it seems whenever there's an opportunity, there's easy access for all people, regardless of um, like if you have internet, you're able to contribute, you're able to be a part of it. For example, Shailene made mention about how in a conversation that we had a couple days ago, that on the Instagram page of what was it? Black Art is Beautiful, I think it was. In the description or in their bio, they had a link that if you clicked on, it was this template that it was a template to your congresswoman. They had a template for your senator. They had a template for your mayor, all in response, hitting key major points of their contribution and ability to change systemic racism in their part of the system. And I thought that was brilliant. I don't think I've ever seen personally, whether that's like me not looking for those particular opportunities, but I don't think I've ever seen that type of organized, you know, collective movement before, and it's dope. I think there's not only like a chance to support, but also a big chance to learn from as well. Um, yeah, and I hope that when when it's all said and done, that not only that we had enough time, but that we were paying enough attention. So yeah, that's just it's been such a like a big experience, and it's obviously not over yet. So trying to unpack it through various conversations. This isn't the first, but still, like man, so much. It just gets my mind going. I'm grateful for the example that they're setting.
Yeah. Uh, Black Lives Matter. It like Josh said, it's been unifying people. For example, I grew up in the Central District of Seattle. Central District historically is a place where all the black people resided. So they used to call it the Colored District in the early 70s, late 60s. And throughout the years, gentrification happened, and people Black families were moving to South Seattle, and there was a divide between those two neighborhoods, and there was often gang violence. Actually, that's like it was a lot of gang violence, and for a person like me growing up in this area, it's almost embedded that we hate the people in that community, whether like they're black just like us, or and they share interests in sports and in the same city, but because of that division long ago, that's just how we are. And I was watching a live feed yesterday, and there was a rally protest here at the fire station just up the street, and there was performers, and they were from the south part of Seattle, and they claimed that, but it was just all unity. Every black person there was just forget that. Like this is a bigger cause. Like none of that stuff, none of that division matters. And like it's just stories and stories like that have been empowering for us. Like even for myself personally, because I don't look full black, and I look the furthest thing from full native, and I've never really had a place to fit, but they know that I'm black, like the people in the black community here, and with with them understanding that they've pulled me in to support more, and like they were like, well, you're black, your hair's like this because I get a big fro, and like when I was in Miami, my fro was big, but with the humidity. And they said, well, you're black, like it's all about numbers now, like you go through the same treatment as us. So it's been inclusive, and Black Lives Matters has just been so empowering. And like Josh said, they're setting the standard for organization,
Mhm.
and moving forward and fighting this fight. So like it's been unifying, and just that I'm so grateful that they've started and started reaching people in our communities, and bringing out even people that could care nothing about politics into this fight, because we're all being affected by it. Like black people, non-black people, we're all being affected by police brutality, and them leading the way, because it's been great. So like as hard as the times are, there like I like to see light in everything, and Black Lives Matter and their energy has been one of the greatest things to watch and be a part of. So it's been great.
Yeah. Being here and at home and supporting has been life changing for me. I feel, because it's to see how people have come together and supported from all walks of life. I think it's really bringing a lot of people together, and I really, really hope that this isn't like swept through the rug, down under the rug, and policy change can happen. And I hope that we can see that within our lifetime, and hopefully within this upcoming year. And there's so much emotion, because it's opened my eyes to things that I didn't know before, and being an Indigenous person and being naive and not being as educated. I want to become more educated, and so the Black Lives Matter movement has, really pushed me to open my mind and educate myself more.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Echoing a lot of what's already been said right now is the Black Lives Matter movement is a, and I'm trying to speak English here, probably like I'm trying to find my words, is an opportunity. The Black Lives Matter movement is an opportunity for us to learn, for me to learn personally as well. Um, there's there's the level of strategy of looking at it from like what moves are being made, and I think that's really important, hugely important, on how we can mobilize our communities together. And there's that part, but what I really love about the leadership in Black Lives Matter is there's still the importance of kindness. It's being assertive, but it's being kind. It's like, okay, you want to learn more, we can provide certain tools or links or make it easier for you to send an email, but we're also going to let you know that it's important that this comes from yourself and that you challenge yourself to do that work. Like, we'll do some of the work in a good way because we love you. Here it is, and here's some dope graphics, here's some people to follow, here's some coding that we did to make it easier, but also there's work on your hands. And I love that type of leadership, because I feel like that really is calling us to make ourselves stronger individuals, and by extension stronger communities. So it's like I feel the kindness and I feel the assertiveness of the movement. And I've just been learning every day from Black Lives Matter, uh, even from the artist tip, is like how colors are used, how design is used, how artists are brought into the visual representation or the visual narrative is very inspiring. And I love seeing the celebration of our matriarchs, our Black sisters, our Black matriarchs, being celebrated and given voice. I think there's just so much to learn from the movement itself. And the numbers show, from you almost turn anywhere, excuse me, you turn to any place online or any retailer, and it's unavoidable. You can't avoid talking about this. I mean, you could if you really, really tried, but it's such a powerful message, and the Black Lives Matter movement has done such a great job of putting this message out there that it's almost like we have to talk about it. And again, it's like there's still a level of kindness in that, and it doesn't mean that we like there it doesn't mean that we have to be kind. It's definitely a choice, and I respect that when we see it. So those are just a few thoughts right there.
Yeah, I have been just like, for one, oh, sorry, I keep adjusting. One, like, just mind blown by the unity. Actually, okay, so I was recently in this conversation with predominantly non-people of color, and one of the things that, people kept saying was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I feel helpless. Like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, okay. So I was listening, and I was like, just trying to hear them out. Um, and so I waited and I waited and kind of waited for like a natural pause. And then I was like, all right, well, I'd like to say something. And in the most respectful way, I was like, well, the first thing that you could do is diversify your feed. Because if I get on my social media, it's all task oriented. Like, there's people posting like, here are the things you could do. Everyone here is
Mhm.
about it, like how easy it is made for us to do something. What are the actionable items? Um, and then so, I think about that too, of like the inclusiveness, but we have to do the work to get there, right? And open to what is being done. I think also for the first time in my life, to see, I'll just say it, to see so many basically white people take a step forward and on the news, I guess it was the first time I think I've ever seen it, is that there was a cop, pointing, what are those, like pepper bullets?
Pepper balls.
Um, at this black woman, and this white woman stood in front of her, and she was like just taking it. And I'd like never seen that before. And I think like that was like this moment for me, like with so much tragedy happening and, racism generally being indoctrinated into the system. And we grow up in these systems and education systems from a young age. What are we just watching this evolution of change happen. And I think one of the beautiful things that I've kind of noticed is that things happen when it's, socially acceptable. And right now, anti-racism is socially acceptable, and people are taking a stand who maybe haven't before.
Mm.
And I've just been like really excited to see, these different conversations happen, and this, you know, um, and just watching this movement, progress. I've been, like I said earlier, just like watching and listening and learning. We you see it on the news, and when people speak, I'm like, you know, um, what can I learn from this? Is kind of like my constant question, and like to see the artists really do their work in this, and the academics really do their work in this, and it takes all of us. It takes all of us to best show up the best way we know how to support, right? Um, and not to center ourselves, but yet to center the Black community, to center the Black Lives Movement, because that's what's key here. Like, checking ourselves, and refrain from centering ourselves, which I think can be hard, because I think in the same way Native people, yes, have endured centuries of oppression, right? That's real. But right now, with that knowledge, we can best support and uplift the Black Lives Movement. We can best support the Black community, and know that we are not the authority of, saying who needs to be centered. Like, I think, saying this in the best way possible, that we can best kind of look inward, um, and and give um, give our love and our support and our solidarity, and having even these hard conversations in our communities and with our families. And what are the biases that maybe we have seen or heard from our families. um, I was watching the news yesterday, and there's this woman, I can't remember her name, but she was like, all right, she's like, I'm just going to go ahead and say it to, our white audience, that do not put all of your energy into the one racist uncle you have, because that is basically going to distract you from the rest of the work on one person. How can we best find those, what did she say? Accountability spaces. Find other people who are trying to do this work, so that we can do this on a larger scale. And when she was talking about that, I was like, yes, like, how can we do this also in the Native community, so we can best support, so we can best be an ally, so we can stand in solidarity? And I was just like, I was in my room by myself, and I was like, yes, yes, like, felt like Randy, like cheering by myself, and I was like, tell him. And then I just, I get so excited that, there are statements that necessarily weren't being heard before, that are now being heard, or people kind of, um, the news was like, well, we're going to play this clip from 2016, and it's Colin Kaepernick talking about this. And they were like, why couldn't you hear them then? Right. And they're like, but now you're hearing them. So now what are the steps that we can take? if you thought that he was wrong then, ask yourself why. Do that internal work. Why do we feel the way that we do? Why do we continue these systems of oppression? And I just think there's like so much to be done that's being spoke about, and it's our opportunity to listen and learn. Um, I've always been told my whole life, and wholeheartedly believed, that I will be a student my entire life. That no matter how much education I have, or um, that I will always be a student, and I'm excited to like really better learn and act with urgency, and you know try and be the best ally that I can be. I think it's such a pivotal time, and an exciting time to be able to um, take on my own work of how I can best be a better ally. So, with all of that being said, um, all of us, working in Native communities, what are our thoughts on how we can best support? What are our thoughts on how we can um, be the best allies that we can be, and stand in solidarity?
Yeah, I think you definitely like hit it on the head by saying like we as Indian people, we as Indigenous people, be careful not to make this time about ourselves. I haven't really seen that happen too much, which I've been super happy about. Um, I'm also not connected to every Native person on the continent, so might be happening. But one thing that I think is like super important, like that's something that we talk about too in our home, and with you guys, when we're not on this live, is how do we best support each other? How do we best be an ally? Allyship has clear definitions in our people's ways. Not anyone could just show up and be like, "Oh, I support the cause and I'm with you," and now I'll take my shirt off, get all painted up, and like ride with you. Like that's not how it works. There were rules. You had to come correct. You had to be about where you're from. You had to know who you are. And I think we as Indian people, we're privileged in that sense. Many of us have access to that, our personal histories, our family histories, the histories of our people and our treaties. We have access to what it means to be like authentically us. And when you show up to ceremony with like another tribe, if I'm visiting another territory and I go to ceremony with them, I don't just rock up to their drum or get up in my regalia and go out on the like floor and dance. That's not how it goes. You show up and you're able to be respectful because you've been taught right, and then you do those things in that space, and it's up to the community how they choose to bring you in and what they choose for you to do. So I think it's just following protocol, just making sure that we're doing what we already know. Uh, but another thing too is I hope that all of us understand, um, like it's just this is such an example. It's such a clear cut example that I often refer to when asked to go into communities to talk about intergenerational and historical trauma. Europeans, when they came to this country, they came because they felt like they didn't have a home in their own home, and they began inviting that from other people because they didn't heal from those hurts, those pains. They invited it from our relatives in the East, and then they invited it from our brothers and sisters from Africa, whose descendants now are the Black communities, who are being represented by, again, Black Lives Matter and these other groups that are protesting in the streets. They did it to Asian Americans in World War II. They did it to um, Hispanics and our relatives south of the border more recent days by separating children from their families and keeping them in little camps on the border. Um, it's not okay, and that's something that we all share. So it's not a Black struggle. It's not an Indian struggle. And one thing, like a couple things that I've heard in the past that kind of at times it kind of rubbed me the wrong way when we were in conferences with other minorities and stuff. This idea that everyone here is on Indian land, and that can kind of be used as like a way to like stamp authority, like Shailene was talking about. But these things have to stop. This hurt has to be resolved. People have to talk about it, and it's not just white people; it's all parties involved. Right now, the conversation is going on between Black communities and our government officials, and it's up to us. Um, it sounds funny, we're not visiting on our own land, but it's up to us in this space to best support in every way that we know. You know, show up correct, be those people who uplift but don't tear down the community that has a space on the floor to speak. And that's really what I think of, and it means something different for everyone. I mean, like all of us have shared why we're, you know, Shailene with her elder back, and then Randy, you know, living with his grandpa, and Hesea, you know, with Tomas and Sib, and we have an expecting baby, and you know, Shailene has constant contact with her niece who is under the age of 5. It's important that we keep our community safe and our family safe, because we look out for our own, we watch our own, protect our own, but in doing that too, we can still support. You know, it's hard. Like when I was growing up to hear the stories of like like my family, like my grandpa Carlos going to World War II and how he got his hair cut and then never grew it out again. Man, it gets me like fired up, and it used to make me sad. Then it made me angry. Now I'm just like, ah. And this time right now with all these protests and these things blatantly being put out there and coming up against like such apparent racism in like mainstream media. People have a platform where they speak to the entire country. If you turn on to their channel, it's like, dude, this is a good thing that's happening. This is a good thing that's happening. And, you know, our Black relatives and community members are out there counting coup. And we got to support them in that, because that's a brave feat. And that's something we can all get behind and celebrate too. It's a beautiful thing. So that's what I got to say. Otherwise, I'll go on forever.
Last night I was having a conversation with someone, and we were seeing how here in Seattle, anything I'm talking about in terms of like the protests or the fight, I can only really talk about what I've seen here in Seattle, and experienced here. And we were talking about how white white people have been in the front and leading the charge in a lot of cases, at least numerically. Like there's probably black people that are organizing it, and Black Lives Matters that are organizing it, but a lot of white people are showing up. And we the conversation I was talking about was sustainability. We were understanding, putting in all of the factors that there's COVID going on, there's no sports, a lot of things that we usually address our attention to are not there because of what's going on. And this right now is trending, and it's gaining so much attention because it's hot. And we were hoping like that it sustains, because police brutality has been around for years, and this fight needs to happen until it's completely gone. So for the natives that I've been watching the natives, they in Seattle, they protect. They've been saying like let the black people have their say. You know, like they'll come up and offer songs in solidarity, but they'll be protecting them. And like for us native community, from a black perspective, if they could sustain that energy until the fight's over, and then we could come, like black people will help them out in all the fights, and that bridge can continue to get built. I was reading some of the comments, and someone said like it's the government and the oppressor's fear for us to truly stand together. And if natives can sustain their help for this cause, for the black lives that matter, then the bridge will just that'll add one more piece to the bridge. And when it's native turn, because there will be a point when natives have enough of their oppressors oppressing them, the black people will come and help them, and there will be a sight that no one no oppressor will be ready for. And but it'll be great. And like sustainability is gonna be, it's huge. And like as Blackfoot say, ikakima, that means try hard. And I know as we tend to reopen, this won't be in the highlight of our day like it is now. But if we can kakimat to sustain some of this energy, um, Black people were appreciated, and the reciprocity, it'll come back. So it'll be great.
Thank you for sharing. I really got lost in both of your guys' answers. Can you say the question one more time, sir?
Yeah, how can we best support, how can the Native community best be an ally and support the Black Lives Matter?
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely. I love what you said, Josh, and with protocol and people having the floor and us being, humble and just listening in that way. I think that's what we've been doing, Tomas and I, and better ways. How can we amplify those voices that people that are sharing their stories and experiences, and before a lot of people their stories were brushed off, and people didn't pay attention, and so definitely with COVID and reiterating what you were saying, the distractions aren't there, and people are being faced with this, right? And beforehand, a lot of white people could easily turn a blind's-eye view, but now it's staring them right back into their faces, and I really hope that they face that and their traumas, and look into themselves and really try to understand of why am I feeling this way, or why haven't I just addressed this before within my family. And I, as an Indigenous mom now, I want to open, my daughter's mind into being globally educated. And so, thinking of this generationally and how we can educate from the generations on moving forward of how this isn't okay, and how can we protect our little beautiful Black sons and daughters that are to be born. How can we make this a better life for them? And we think of being an Indigenous mom, and we have that being and being an Indigenous aunt, being an Indigenous uncle, all types of relations, thinking of the next 7 generations. How can we make the next 7 generations for our Black brothers and sisters better?
Thank you for all the expressions. There's so much to talk about. And I want to say that my family, our little family here, 3 of us, and also my family, my immediate family, my mom and dad and my 2 sisters, and then their kids, and so on and so forth. We've benefited so much from the Black community, and we benefit from the music that we listen to, from the food that we eat, from the culture, from, like I said, the leadership on how to organize and mobilize. In every facet of life, I am very aware that my family benefits from the Black community. In that Native way, we think of reciprocity, of if we're gonna take something, we have to give back to show and honor the things that we are receiving. So early on, I said, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot from the Black Lives Matter movement. I am inspired. These are all things that are coming towards me, that are coming into my home, into my heart, into my spaces. What can we do as a people to give back and be actionable? We've spoken about some of these things. It's signing petitions. it's given monetary, donations, and I love connecting it to how Josh was saying, Randy, and how we're all saying it here too, that there's a way of coming correct through protocol. And I remember one of my mentors, Auntie Pua, she's from Hawaii. When I was at the Ocheti Shakon resistance camp in Standing Rock, that was one of the main teachings that she would remind us is we're guests and relatives. Even as Native people going to a Native space, I'm a guest and a relative. And knowing that relationship allowed me to say, okay, am I taking more than I'm giving back? Am I taking more than I'm giving back? And like I said before, like in our playlists, we're constantly listening to music made by Black creatives, and the movies that we watch, and in our fashion, in every aspect of our life. The beauty of our Black relatives is undeniable. It's everywhere, and I want to express that gratitude. And one of the ways to give back, like we said, is the petitions, signing the petitions, giving monetary donations, showing up for the protest. We could also give back by sharing stories. And I shared some in another live, and I won't share it here, but one of the thoughts that came is that we should, when we talk to our relatives, and I know right now we're talking about imminent and current threats to Black bodies and our Black brothers and sisters, once things start to not be as intense, whenever that time is, I encourage us all to talk about our Black brothers and sisters like as we would our family, like a good story, um, basically honoring the life of our Black brothers and sisters, not only in tragedy, but in life right now. And maybe speaking to the fact that, and we don't, I'm not saying like we have to like force ourselves to do this. It's more just being aware and understanding our own biases and prejudices, and seeing like, oh, maybe I'm consuming a lot or I'm learning a lot, but I'm just not sharing enough of this beauty. So that's what I encourage our relatives to do, to support. And I'm working on it myself on a daily basis. I'm still learning, and I still need to sign more petitions and give more money. Thank you for listening.
Guys. Yeah, I think for me, like I've been really thinking about, I saw this really simple drawing this morning, and it's like this little doodle of this guy. He has like a cut on his leg, and then he's like, um, it says something like, I need a band-aid, and somebody's helping him, and then there's somebody standing there, and then he's like, well, what about my leg? But he's like totally healthy, and he's standing there, and he's talking about, they were making that connection of when we center any community that's not the Black Lives Matter movement or the Black community, um, like people are saying here, we're taking from more than we're giving. This movement is about the Black community, and it's our opportunity to step in and support and to listen. Like Tomas was saying, how much we benefit from the Black community. There's just so many examples, right? And now this is our give back, right? Nobody's saying that Native lives don't matter, but what we're saying is Black lives matter, and that's what needs to be centered here. And I have a lot of love and appreciation for the Native community that is out there and that is on the front lines and that are behind the keyboards and that are doing the work. It's our opportunity, just like when we were having our movements, we wanted people to speak up. We wanted people to speak out, and we didn't want people to be complicit. And so now that's our turn. When we had those asks, now it's our turn to give back. It's our turn to say, yes, we stand behind you, we stand alongside you, right? It's our turn to, even if it's a simple post, but to make sure that we're also not staying silent. And these are just my own opinions, right? Like I'm not, and I'm just, I think about this is now, um, it's only ethical for us to do our own work and to be accountable to ourselves and accountable to our community and accountable to the Black community to really create change. Um, and one of the things that I really want to talk about as well is that um, yes, being on the front lines is important, right? But voting is just as important. If we're trying to change these systems, we need to vote in these systems and vote the people out who are um, allowing this harm to continue, and vote the people in who are going to create the change. Do something as simple as reading up on who is running for office and who are you voting for, or are you just, scrambling really quick and writing in things like, let's really do the work, you know. Be counted in the census, be counted so that funds are allocated correctly, and so that we can be seen on a level that we deserve to be seen in all communities. There's like a little link. Text it to somebody and say, "Hey, have you been counted yet? Hey, have you voted?" There's work that we can do alongside each other to make sure that these systems are being changed, right? You're watching how much change is being created just by these the protests, right? People defunding the police and allocating that money, or saying they'll allocate, I guess we'll see in the long run, into community, right? All parts are an important part, and I think we can then ask ourselves, what is our part? In the same way that community has been run historically to now, right? When we wanted to learn something, we would go to somebody, right? We all have that specialty, that's something that we are good at. Now, how can we best use that gift to give and help support the Black community? If you are an artist, how can we create art? And I've seen countless people now that whether they're beading or drawing or painting or writing and selling those pieces to donate to an organization. And I think that's the beauty in community, is that we have gifts that we can use, that we can best help uplift and support, not centering ourselves, but giving. And I know that in a pan-Indigenous view, but in community, we're about giving. When we have things happen, we give, right? And so this is our opportunity to step into that space to say, yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, I stand alongside them, and these are the things that I can do to make sure and ensure that this continues in a sustainable way, not when it's just popular, but to make sure that this is ongoing. And that's what I'm really appreciative about, this conversation and the countless conversations we have off screen. I kind of forget sometimes that we're on live. But I just really appreciate all of you and the work that we're collectively doing to uplift the movement. And so, regardless of time, I just want to ask if anybody else has any other last statements that they want to make before we.
Yeah, I just got something short for all of our I-20SP crew, Indigenous 20-somethings. If you're in that, find out who's running in your area. The change that our peoples need is only going to come right now if good people are in office. So let's all get educated about those candidates, and let's start voting. One other thing that I'd like to say too is, traditionally, communities of color don't contribute to campaigns or organizations more often than not because we don't have expendable income. There's a lot of groups out there who are putting up these huge efforts, organizing efforts, as well as trying to put out like various forms of education. They are incredible people with incredible minds that have the capacity to do it, and they don't ask for much. So expendable income doesn't always mean a few thousand laying around. I mean, it can mean quite literally 75 cents, a dollar, $5, $10 if you got it. And so if we can educate ourselves and find a cause that we affiliate with, man, I love this. I would like to contribute to this message. Please, it's more than a worthy cause, and that's something that we as Indian people do. I have cousins back home in Oklahoma, and they're like, we don't even have gas money, but every time we show up to an elder's house, we bought brand new can of coffee and a whole bunch of cigarettes. So we can do it. It's just about finding those people that we want to give to, and so that would be all I have to say. Thank you all for joining and listening. Yeah, grateful to be here.
Dig in those couches. Look for that change.
I just want to say one more thing really quick. I just want to say to our Black relatives, if you're watching, that we love you and support you. And we just, in the times of frustration, feel our love. And we want to give you all big hope, big hugs. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to Native Wellness Institute and I-20SP. Like this narrative, having this conversation is so important. And to Native communities, challenge yourself to have these conversations and strategic moments with one another to help, and the reciprocity, it will come back to you. So thank you, Native Wellness Institute, I-20SP. This has been great for having me on.
Tomas, anything?
I just want to say we'll work together as a team to provide some of these links to resources that we mentioned, just to make it a little easier. So we'll try to pin it to this video or somewhere on the Native Wellness page. And yeah, I encourage you to speak with your families about this very topic of anti-racism and uplifting and amplifying our Black brothers and sisters. Randy, this is the first time I meet you, brother. Like, it's just a pleasure, bro. And we go to Seattle often. It's a very special place for our family. And thank you for opening up, your heart and offering perspective. I actually want to learn a lot more, and I want to know how, or I'll work on thinking on how I can also best support our brothers and sisters who also identify Black and Native at the same time. I feel like that's a very special conversation too, and I'm very grateful that you were able to express yourself and teach us something here. So thank you, brother.
All right. Yeah, I'm just thankful for this space. I'm thankful for everybody who watched. I'm thankful for everybody who commented. But now it's time to do the work. It's time to, if you're watching this, it means you have access to internet, which also means you have access to Google. So Google whatever you need to know. If there's something you want to know about, start learning. There are plenty of books, or if you're like me who can't focus too well, there's plenty of audiobooks. You know what I mean? There's films. There's so much content out there, and so do the work. And take care of yourselves. Speak up, even if it's uncomfortable, and listen. If something makes you angry, ask yourself first before you react. You can respond. Understand where that feeling comes from. So, Josh is always talking about there's a difference between right here and right here. So, and I always listen to that. And this is a moment where we can use our power to uplift the Black community, because Black lives do matter, and that should be what's key here. So I appreciate you all. I love all of you. Thank you, and we'll see you guys.
I always mess that up.
A circle heart.
Well, we put it over the shirt, so it's a black heart. There you go.
All right, love you guys, and thank you. And tomorrow's Power Hour, what's Sunday is prayer songs from many nations. So tune into that, and thank you guys.
Thank you.